Hey guys, Roman Chess here with Mission Forge, and we're back with another video. And today, guys, we're doing another 5 more tips to help you with your hammer control and technique. Now, if you haven't seen my first video, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the description below and go check that out. Just so you know, guys, this is geared towards people who are not familiar with blacksmithing or they're kind of new to it, and so they're looking on ways to improve their work. So if you've been blacksmithing for a while, this may not apply to you, but it could also. Maybe you get some new insights and ways of thinking things. So do me a favor and just check it out. Don't forget to hit that like button. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and let's get into it. Tip number 1, that's going to be get close to the anvil. One problem with you being too far is your arm's going to get tired a lot faster. All right, so all of a sudden, because you're further away, the weight is way out here instead of closer to where it starts at, where the movement starts at. So the movement starts here, it's heavier here. So this 3-pound hammer all of a sudden becomes really heavy. So your arm's going to tire out, and you're going to get ugly blows. You're going to start seeing where you get missed blows, and it's going to be to the side, and you're going to see dents and stuff like that, and not nice things. You're going to see gouges and stuff. Not well how you can see down here. So you want to get close. The closer you are to your work, the more control you have of your hammer, and also the lighter it will feel, and your arm's less likely to get tired. Also, the more control you have of the piece you're working on. So that's the first thing you need to make sure you do is just get close, okay? So don't be afraid of the sparks. Don't be afraid of that stuff. If you're wearing your proper PPE, you know, your goggles or eyeglasses or something like that, you know, and at the very least, don't wear a glove on your hammer hand, but if you wear a glove on your, say, the hand that's holding the tongs or a piece of metal, you're going to be fine, okay? So that's one thing you can do. Tip number 2, that's going to be anvil height. So you're like, Jesus, what does this guy do with hammer control and stuff like that? Well, again, if you have a lot of weird blows where you're getting grooves and stuff like that, and they look all jagged, you know, they're supposed to be like nice, and let's say I hammer this, right, and I'm hammering properly. If you look at when I hammer properly, I don't know how well you can see here, but it's nice and smooth. You're not seeing deep impacts like that. That's what you want your steel to do. If your anvil is too high or too low, you're going to start getting things where it looks like you're hitting with the front, you're hitting with the back, or you know, the side, something like that. And your height of your anvil can affect your hammer control. So, because if it's too high, what's going to happen is you're going to land like this. I'm over exaggerating. You're going to land like that. If it's too low, it's going to land like this. And then you're going to have a lot of missed blows. So make sure your anvil height's proper, right? So one way that everybody does it is stand up straight, relax your arm, and wherever your knuckles land, that's the height of the anvil it should be. Now that also depends on your stance, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But that's where it should be for your stance and stuff like that, is at that height, because it's going to give you better control of that hammer. You're going to be landing more square or parallel to the surface of the anvil. You're going to be landing parallel to the face of the anvil and not these perpendicular angles and stuff. So that is a way to help determine how your anvil, if your anvil is at proper heights. Tip number 3, it's going to be your stance. So one of the things is that, what is your proper stance when forging? Well, consensus generally states that you should be pretty much straight up and down, okay? You don't want to be bent over like this, all right? That's not good. It's going to hurt your back, and you're going to have problems later on. Even historically, when you look at historical writings and pictures, you'll see that everybody kind of stands straight up and down. Even if you're forging sitting down, you should be more up and down. And the reason for that is 1, protects your back. 2, keep your face further from the piece you're working on. You don't want to get hit with scale. And also, it won't tire out your arm as fast, because you think, well, this is closer, so, but no, you're using more of your arm here than you are using your shoulder here. Okay, remember how we talked about the shoulders? So that's why. Okay, so make sure your stance is generally straight up and down. Now, what that could be is, you could be like me, where you're kind of more shoulder width. Your legs are shoulder width apart. Right, your feet are, you know. And I have a very, very slight forward. All right. So when I say very slight leaning forward, I am like that. This is about as far forward as I tend to lean. Now, if I'm doing some real delicate work, when I'm just trying to real minor, that's different. 'Cause I'm really trying to focus. I'm not slamming on anything. But overall, I'm shoulder width apart, and I lean forward very slightly. Some folks will be wider stance. Others will be almost in this weird isosceles stance where you're kind of in this weird 1 foot forward, 1 back, and this is how you're forging, and that's fine. Whatever's comfortable for you, as long as you're pretty much straight up and down. But like I was telling you, that can affect your anvil height. All of a sudden, if I'm here, my hand's way down here, so that anvil needs to be lower. So keep that in mind. So what your stance should be, whatever's comfortable for you. But as long as you are upper body is pretty much up and down, that's going to help you with your hammer control technique. Tip number 4, and we kind of talked about this briefly in the other one, and that's how is your hammer, the faces of your hammer dressed. Now that's a pretty important thing, because if you got these real hard, sharp lines, even if you're hammering properly, so let's say you're hammering properly, if you got hard lines, it's going to show up in your work. So you need to make sure that you sand those down, all right? So you got nice, smooth lines and smooth transitions, so that way you're not having these hard lines. So if I were to show you, like, oh, not this one, because this one I used. Actually, no, I can't show you this one. So I'm not sure how well you can see on this, but there's a hard line right here. I don't use this one for blacksmithing. That line will show up. That line will show up while forging. You want to sand that down so it's as smooth as possible, so that way if you come to like a blacksmithing hammer, there's no lines. It's a nice radius here, and this right here, it's flat, and where there would be a line, there is none. So there is no lines on the flat or the round there. All right, and that can affect your work. Also, don't forget to dress the handle. Get all the lacquer off. If you have lacquer on your handle or any kind of clear coat, as it gets used, as you forge, it's going to get sticky, or it's going to feel sticky in your hand, and it's going to cause severe blisters. So it's going to cause you to grip weird and all this stuff. You're going to have all this stuff to try to make it more comfortable. Get it down to bare wood. It's alright if it's coated with like an oil, because that's not going to affect the wood too much, like linseed oil or something like that. Personally, me, the hammers that I dress, I just sand it down and I don't add any oil or anything. This one here is the hammer I use, and it looks like it's got a nice black coating. That's just from the sweat and greases from my hands, though. Kind of gross, I know, but don't do that, okay? Take the lacquer off. Don't keep it on there, so that way that can't affect your hammer control and technique, okay? So get those out of there so that way it looks better when you're forging. Tip number 5. Move the workpiece, not the hammer. All right, so this one here I kind of struggle with at times because things happen. The metal might move around and it becomes difficult. But the reason you want to move this around and not this is that it's going to give you more consistent hits. You're less likely to get deep grooves and hits and stuff like that in there, or divots in there. It's going to give you more even strikes. So what I mean by that is this, and also because it's easier to move this because the weight is being supported by the anvil and not the hammer. So what I mean by move this, not this, is like this. You want the hammer to be, like, say, hit here the whole time. Because now you don't have to worry about trying to move the hammer around. This is really hard to control when you got to move it somewhere, okay? This isn't so much. So look at one spot, keep it there, and then you're going to forge or hammer, and you want to move the workpiece. By doing that, it's going to give you more nice, even hammer marks, no deep hammer marks and grooves, and also it makes you more accurate. Pretty much what happens is where you look is where the hammer's going to go. Okay, so look at the same spot on the anvil every time, and move what you need to work on in that spot. It makes it easier on your arms too, just because you're not having to move it around. So that's just another little tip there for you guys. So that was tip 5. Move the workpiece, if you can, more than the hammer. Bonus tip 6. That is, if possible, use gravity and rebound to move the hammer. So what I mean by use gravity and rebound is simple. As you come down, use gravity to bring the hammer down, okay? Don't actively swing it hard, right? Use gravity to do the work for you. make you less tired. And as you hit the piece, there's going to be a little rebound. Use that rebound to help it come back up. Okay? So use the rebound to help bring that hammer back up. It's going to save your arm in the long run. Now, the little thing about this too is another bonus tip 7 is don't, your arm wants to be relaxed but not tense. You don't want loosey-goosey and all that stuff. So relax but tense. So that way you can help absorb the shock, and your arm will act as the guide. So keep that in mind. So when you're hammering, guys, use the gravity to help it down and the rebound to come up. Okay. And the last tip, guys, bonus tip, I guess 8, is going to be practice on a piece of wood. It sounds crazy. It sounds stupid. You go, geez, Roman, why? Steel's getting kind of expensive. Wood's not necessarily cheap, but you could find scrap wood everywhere. This was a piece of wood I found in a parking lot. All right? You can find scrap metal too, but you need to hammer it while it's hot, and propane costs money, or coal costs money and stuff. This was free. So if you really want to get good at practicing with your hammer techniques and see if you are having deep gouges or grooves, get a piece of wood and just practice on that. It's bouncing around now because the edges here are messed up. But you can then learn how to hammer more properly, get a feel for the swinging, develop your technique that way, so that way you're not going to potentially ruin any steel. So use some wood. Well, there you have it, guys. That's 5 more tips plus 3 bonus tips on how you can improve your hammer control and technique so that your work looks a little bit better. Now, take what I had, what I explained to you and showed you, keep that in the forefront of your mind, and then just practice it. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to take some time to kind of get used to the feelings and stuff like that. With that, guys, hopefully you found this video helpful. If you have, go ahead and hit that like button. Also, got any comments or suggestions, leave them down below. And don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit that bell for more notifications. With that, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.